In the weeks following the Veil's retreat, Earth began to heal. The alien fleet had vanished from the skies, leaving behind a planet scared but alive. Cities that had been reduced to rubble were slowly rebuilt, their streets filled once again with the sounds of life. Survivors gathered in town squares and parks, sharing stories of loss and resilience. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and survived. Sam Riley stood on a hill overlooking what remained of her hometown, now a patchwork of old ruins and new beginnings. She thought about all they had lost, the pilots who gave their lives, the civilians caught in a crossfire, and Rachel Morales, whose bravery had turned the tide of the war. Sam's heart ached, but she felt a quiet pride too. They had proven something important. Humanity wasn't defined by its weaknesses, but by its ability to endure. At the same time, Alex Carter and Mia Lopes continued their work at the research facility. Though the immediate threat had passed, they knew Earth couldn't afford to let its guard down. The Veil might return, or worse, the Caliph could decide to intervene directly. Alex spent hours analyzing data from the captured drone, searching for clues about the Caliph and their empire. "We've only scratched the surface," he told Mia one evening as they reviewed star charts. "The galaxy is bigger than we ever imagined." Mia nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the monitors around them. "And more dangerous. But if we're smart, we can prepare for whatever comes next." Their partnership had grown stronger over the months, forged in the fires of crisis. Where Alex saw problems, Maya found solutions. Where Mia hesitated, Alex pushed forward. Together, they represented the best of humanity: curiosity, determination, and hope. Around the world, people began to dream again. Artists painted murals of fighter jets soaring against alien ships, musicians composed songs of defiance, and writers documented the war in books that would be passed down for generations. Schools reopened, teaching children not just about history and math, but also about courage and unity. Humanity had been humbled, but it had also been inspired. One evening, Alex and Mia climbed to the roof of the facility to watch the sunset. The sky was streaked with orange and pink, the stars beginning to peek through the fading light. For the first time in months, there was peace, not just outside, but within themselves. "We did it," Maya said softly, breaking the silence. "Not perfectly, but we did it." Alex smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Yeah. And we'll keep doing it. Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out." Mia leaned back, resting her arms on the cool concrete. "Do you think the Veil will come back?" "Maybe," Alex replied. "But if they do, they'll find us ready. Smarter, stronger." He glanced at her, his expression softening. "You know, when this started, I thought we were fighting to survive. Now I think we were fighting for something bigger, to prove that we belong out there." He pointed toward the stars. "That we're not just survivors. We're explorers." Mia nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Then let's make sure we're ready." As night fell, the two sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars twinkle above. Somewhere beyond those distant lights lay mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and dangers yet unknown. But humanity had taken its first step into the wider universe, and nothing would ever be the same. Far below, in towns and cities across the globe, people looked up at the same stars. They remembered the sacrifices made, the battles fought, and the lessons learned. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they also knew one thing for certain. Humanity had shown its strength, its ingenuity, and its unyielding spirit. And that was enough to face whatever came next. The deception plan worked better than Alex and Mia had hoped. The fake messages about the Caliph's betrayal spread quickly through the Veil fleet, planting seeds of doubt among their ranks. At first, the changes were subtle: ships drifting out of formation, patrols becoming less coordinated. But soon, open rebellion erupted. Entire squadrons turned on each other, firing energy blasts in chaotic skirmishes that lit up Earth's orbit like fireworks. Sam Riley watched the unfolding chaos from the command center, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. It was a strange feeling, watching the enemy tear itself apart. Part of her felt relief. Humanity's gamble had paid off, but another part worried about what might come next. The Veil weren't defeated yet, and desperate enemies could be the most dangerous kind. Rachel Morales stood beside her, staring at the screens displaying live footage of the alien infighting. Her face was pale but determined. "This is our chance," she said quietly. "If we hit them now, while they're distracted, we might actually win." Sam nodded, though the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. She knew Rachel was right. They couldn't afford to hesitate. But every decision she made carried consequences, and lives depended on getting this right. "We'll strike at dawn," she said finally. "Make sure everyone's ready." The final assault would target the heart of the Veil fleet, their central command ship. Without it, the remaining forces would lose cohesion, leaving them vulnerable to further attacks. Sam handpicked the pilots for the mission, choosing only those with nerves of steel and unmatched skill. Rachel volunteered immediately, despite her lingering injuries. "I started this fight," she said simply. "I'm finishing it." As the squadron prepared for launch, Alex and Mia worked feverishly to ensure the AI systems were functioning perfectly. They knew this mission would push the technology, and the pilots, to its limits. "Be careful," Maya told Rachel as she handed her a data chip containing the latest updates. "We need you to come back." Rachel forced a smile, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "I'll do my best." The battle began under the glow of the rising sun. The squadron raced toward the command ship, weaving through debris and bursts of energy fire from rogue Veil vessels. The AI guided their movements, suggesting unpredictable maneuvers that kept the enemy guessing. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually make it through unscathed. But then disaster struck. A massive Veil cruiser emerged from the chaos, blocking their path. Its weapons locked onto Rachel's jet, sending waves of fire hurtling toward her. She twisted the controls, narrowly avoiding the blasts, but her ship took heavy damage. Smoke filled the cockpit as alarms screamed in her ears. "Rachel, pull back," Sam shouted over the comms. "No," Rachel replied, her voice calm but firm. "I've got a clear shot." With one last burst of speed, she lined up her missile launcher and fired directly at the command ship. The explosion was blinding, tearing through the vessel's core and sending it spiraling into flames. Cheers erupted over the comms as the remaining Veil ships scattered, their formations collapsing completely. But Rachel's victory came at a cost. Her jet, battered and burning, plummeted toward Earth. "Eject," Sam yelled desperately, but there was no response. Back at the base, silence fell over the command center as the reality sank in. Rachel had sacrificed herself to destroy the command ship, giving humanity its greatest chance at survival. Sam clenched her fists, fighting back tears. She wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all. But instead, she straightened her posture and turned to face her team. "She did what she set out to do," Sam said, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "She gave us a future." As the Veil retreated, their fleet in shambles, humanity celebrated cautiously. They had won a decisive victory, but the scars of war ran deep. Alex and Mia stood together outside the lab, looking up at the stars. The sky was clearer now, free of the shadow of the alien ships. Yet neither of them felt truly victorious. "We owe her everything," Alex murmured, his voice heavy with emotion. Mia nodded, wiping away a tear. "And we'll honor her by keeping the fight alive." For now, humanity had proven it wasn't as primitive as the Veil believed. But the galaxy was vast, and new challenges undoubtedly awaited. As Alex and Mia returned to their work, they carried Rachel's memory with them, a reminder of the courage it took to stand against impossible odds. The victory over the Veil command ship gave humanity a much-needed advantage, but Alex knew they couldn't rest. He returned to the lab with renewed determination, poring over data from the captured drone and intercepted communications. There had to be more to uncover, something that could explain the Veil's motives and weaknesses. As he worked late into the night, a pattern began to emerge. Mia joined him, her eyes scanning lines of alien text on a monitor. "There's something strange here," she said, pointing to a recurring phrase in the Veil's messages. "It keeps mentioning the Caliph. Do you think it's another species?" Alex leaned closer, his brow furrowing. The term hadn't appeared in earlier analyses, but now it seemed significant. Together, they dug deeper, cross-referencing every mention of the Caliph in the decoded logs. What they discovered was chilling. The Veil weren't the true rulers of their empire. They served the Caliph, an ancient and powerful race that manipulated lesser civilizations into waging wars for them. "They're pawns," Alex muttered, shaking his head. "Just like us." Mia frowned, her voice tinged with disbelief. "So the Veil aren't invading Earth because they want to. They're doing it because the Caliph told them to." "It looks that way," Alex replied grimly. "And if we can prove it, maybe we can turn them against each other." The idea was risky, but it offered a glimmer of hope. If the Veil believed the Caliph had betrayed them, or if they saw no benefit in continuing the war, they might abandon their mission. Alex and Mia began crafting a deception plan, using fragments of the Veil's language to create fake messages suggesting the Caliph had ordered the destruction of the Veil fleet as part of a larger scheme. Meanwhile, Sam Riley prepared for the next phase of the conflict. Though the loss of the command ship had weakened the Veil, they were far from defeated. Reports indicated increased activity among their remaining forces, signaling a possible counterattack. Sam knew they needed to strike again while the enemy was still disorganized. Rachel Morales, despite her injuries, insisted on joining the upcoming mission. Her jet had been repaired, and though she moved slower than before, her resolve remained unshaken. "I'm not sitting this one out," she told Sam firmly. "Not after what we've lost." The operation targeted a massive supply depot orbiting Jupiter. Destroying it would further cripple the Veil's ability to sustain their campaign. This time, the squadron relied heavily on the rebuilt AI systems, which guided their movements with precision and unpredictability. The battle was fierce, with both sides taking heavy losses, but humanity emerged victorious once again. Back at the base, Alex and Mia finalized their plan to sow discord among the Veil. Using hacked communication channels, they broadcast the fabricated messages across the alien fleet. At first, there was no visible reaction. Then, slowly, signs of unrest began to appear. Ships drifted apart, patrols became erratic, and some vessels even turned on each other. Sam watched the developments with cautious optimism. "It's working," she said during a briefing. "They're starting to doubt their own leaders." But the victory wasn't without cost. As tensions mounted within the Veil ranks, so did the risk of retaliation. Their attacks grew desperate and chaotic, forcing humanity to remain vigilant. Rachel, exhausted from weeks of relentless combat, confided in Alex during a rare quiet moment. "How long can we keep this up?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every time we win, they hit back harder." Alex didn't have an answer. All he could do was point to the stars outside the window. "We fight because we have to, because giving up isn't an option." As the days passed, humanity clung to its fragile momentum. They had proven they could adapt, innovate, and resist. But the war was far from over. For now, though, they had forced the Veil to question their place in the galaxy, and that uncertainty might just be enough to tip the scales in humanity's favor. Despite the sabotage and mounting pressure, Alex and Mia refused to give up. They worked tirelessly in the lab, determined to restore Project Phoenix. With limited resources and time running out, they focused on rebuilding the eye's core functions, enough to provide pilots with a tactical edge in battle. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. And in a war against an enemy as powerful as the Veil, something could make all the difference. Sam Riley knew they couldn't wait for the AI to be fully operational. The Veil were growing bolder, launching coordinated assaults that pushed humanity to its limits. She decided to deploy the partially rebuilt systems in a critical mission targeting one of the alien fleet's key command ships. If they succeeded, it would cripple the Veil's ability to coordinate their forces. But if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. Rachel Morales volunteered to lead the attack. She had flown countless missions since the war began, each one taking a toll on her body and mind. Yet she remained steadfast, driven by a sense of duty and defiance. "I didn't sign up just to sit on the sidelines," she told Sam when asked why she wanted to take part. "If this is our shot, I'm taking it." The plan was risky. A small squadron of fighter jets, equipped with the experimental AI systems, would penetrate deep into enemy territory. Their goal was to disable the command ship's defenses using EMP weapons before delivering a final blow with conventional missiles. The operation relied heavily on speed and precision, qualities the AI was designed to enhance. As the team prepared for launch, Rachel felt a mix of excitement and dread. She glanced at the other pilots, their faces tense but resolute. They were volunteers, united by a shared determination to protect Earth. For a brief moment, Rachel allowed herself to hope, not just for victory, but for survival. The mission began under the cover of darkness. The squadron raced toward the target, dodging patrols and evading detection. The AI guided their movements, suggesting unpredictable maneuvers that kept the Veil off balance. At first, everything went according to plan. The EMP weapons struck true, disabling sections of the command ship's outer defenses. Cheers erupted over the comms as the pilots regrouped for the final assault. But then disaster struck. A squadron of Veil fighters appeared out of nowhere, cutting off their escape route. Rachel's jet took heavy fire, sparks flying from the console as alarms blared inside her cockpit. "We've got company," she shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. One by one, the other pilots broke formation to engage the enemy, buying time for Rachel to reach the command ship. She locked onto her target, firing the last of her missiles. The explosion lit up the sky, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The command ship shuddered, its massive frame breaking apart as flames engulfed it. Mission accomplished, Rachel gasped, struggling to stabilize her damaged jet. But the cost was high. Several pilots hadn't made it back, their ships lost in the fray. Rachel herself barely escaped, her craft limping toward friendly airspace as smoke poured from its engines. Back at the base, the mood was somber. The victory was undeniable. The destruction of the command ship threw the Veil fleet into disarray. But it came at a steep price. Sam stood silently as the names of the fallen were read aloud, her jaw tight with grief and resolve. Humanity had proven it could fight back, but every step forward seemed to demand more sacrifice. Alex watched the ceremony from a distance, his heart heavy. He thought about the pilots who had given their lives, including some who had trusted his technology to guide them home. It was a sobering reminder of what was at stake. As he turned to leave, Mia joined him, her expression unreadable. "We did it," she said softly, though there was no joy in her voice. "But how many more times can we do this before we run out of people willing to pay the price?" Alex didn't have an answer. All he knew was that they couldn't stop. Not now. Not when they were finally starting to turn the tide. The victories brought by Project Phoenix gave humanity a much-needed boost, but not everyone was convinced it was enough. Tensions within the GDI began to rise as factions debated the best path forward. Some believed that continuing to fight would only lead to more destruction and loss of life. Others argued that surrender was unthinkable, no matter how overwhelming the odds. Ethan Cole, a charismatic politician with a talent for rallying people to his cause, became the voice of those who favored peace through negotiation. He appeared on news broadcasts and addressed crowds, urging calm and cooperation. "We've shown we can resist," he said during one speech. "But at what cost? Our cities are in ruins, our families torn apart. Is this really the future we want? His words struck a chord with many. Fearful citizens gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that read "Peace now and no more war." Ethan's message spread quickly, dividing public opinion and creating friction even within Sam Riley's ranks. Some soldiers questioned whether their sacrifices were worth it if diplomacy could spare further bloodshed. Sam found herself caught in the middle. She respected Ethan's passion but couldn't agree with his approach. "Negotiation won't work," she told Alex during a private meeting. "The Veil don't see us as equals. They see us as resources to be used up and discarded. If we stop fighting, they'll take everything until there's nothing left." Alex nodded grimly. He understood the fear driving Ethan's supporters, but he also knew the truth. They couldn't trust the Veil. Still, the growing unrest made it harder to focus on the mission. Supplies were delayed, volunteers dwindled, and morale dipped among the troops. Then came the sabotage. Late one night, alarms blared throughout the research facility where Alex and Mia worked. A fire erupted in the lab housing the AI systems for Project Phoenix. Smoke filled the air as staff scrambled to contain the blaze. By the time firefighters arrived, critical components of the project had been destroyed. Suspicion immediately fell on Ethan. His speeches had grown increasingly critical of the GDI strategies, and some accused him of undermining the war effort. When confronted, Ethan denied involvement, his face pale but defiant. "I want peace, not destruction," he insisted. "Sabotage isn't the answer." But Sam wasn't convinced. She ordered an investigation, determined to uncover the truth. In the meantime, work on Project Phoenix ground to a halt. Without the AI systems, humanity's newfound advantage disappeared, leaving them vulnerable once again. Alex felt the weight of failure pressing down on him. Days of progress had been erased in a single night. He and Mia worked around the clock to salvage what they could, but rebuilding the AI would take time they didn't have. The Veil were already regrouping, their attacks growing bolder and more frequent. One evening, Alex confronted Ethan in a quiet corner of the base. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, his voice low but intense. "Don't you see what's at stake? If we give up now, we're signing our own death warrant." Ethan met his gaze steadily. "And if we keep fighting, we're signing it in blood. Do you really think we can win against them? Look at what's happening, Alex. We're tearing ourselves apart trying to hold on to hope that might never come." Alex clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. "Hope is all we have. Without it, we're already lost." The argument ended there, but the tension lingered. As Alex walked away, he realized something important. Ethan's doubts weren't just about winning or losing. They were about fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, and fear of what might happen if humanity pushed too far. But Alex also knew that fear couldn't dictate their choices. They had to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it got. That night, Alex returned to the lab, determined to rebuild what had been lost. With Mia by his side, they started from scratch, piecing together fragments of code and damaged hardware. It was slow, grueling work, but every step brought them closer to reigniting the spark of resistance. Outside, the stars shone brightly, indifferent to the struggles below. Humanity stood on the edge of a precipice, torn between surrender and survival. For now, Alex chose to believe in the latter, even if it meant fighting alone. The GDI's efforts were starting to pay off, but Alex knew they needed more than just small victories. They needed a game changer. Late one night, as he sat in the lab surrounded by glowing screens and scattered notes, an idea began to take shape. The Veil were advanced, disciplined, and precise, but their reliance on logic and order made them predictable. What if humanity could use that against them? Alex turned to Mia, who was typing furiously at her workstation. "What if we create something that mimics human unpredictability?" he asked. "Something they can't anticipate or counter." Mia paused, tilting her head as she considered the question. "You mean like artificial intelligence? Something that thinks like us?" Exactly, Alex replied, his eyes lighting up. We already know the Veils struggle with chaos. If we program AI systems to act creatively, making decisions based on emotion and spontaneity rather than pure logic, it could throw them off balance. Mia nodded slowly, intrigued by the concept. It's risky, though. We'd need to integrate these systems into our weapons and defenses without overwhelming our own pilots. Too much randomness could backfire. That's why we'll keep it controlled, Alex said firmly. The AI would suggest strategies, not dictate them. It would give our forces an edge while still leaving room for human judgment. Over the next few days, Alex and Mia worked tirelessly to develop the new AI system. They called it Project Phoenix, a nod to humanity's resilience and determination to rise from the ashes of despair. The project wasn't just about technology. It was about proving that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, innovate, and fight back when all odds were stacked against it. While Alex focused on programming the AI, Mia used her expertise in linguistics to refine the data they had gathered from the captured drone. She discovered patterns in the Veils' language, phrases and commands that hinted at their hierarchy and decision-making processes. By combining this knowledge with Alex's algorithms, they hoped to design countermeasures tailored specifically to exploit the Veils' weaknesses. Sam Riley was briefed on the progress and immediately saw the potential. This could be exactly what we need, she said during a meeting with the team. But we have to test it before deploying it in the field. One mistake could cost us everything. Testing began in a secure simulation chamber. Pilots, including Rachel Morales, were brought in to practice using the new AI-enhanced systems. At first, the experience was jarring. The AI offered suggestions that seemed illogical or overly aggressive, pushing the pilots out of their comfort zones. But as they grew accustomed to working with the system, the benefits became clear. The AI's unpredictable tactics caught even experienced pilots off guard, forcing them to adapt quickly, a skill that would prove invaluable in real combat. Rachel emerged from one of the simulations, wiping sweat from her brow. That thing is crazy, she admitted with a grin. But it works. It feels like having a wild card on your side. Encouraged by the results, Sam authorized a limited deployment of the AI-enhanced systems in upcoming missions. The first trial came during an attack on a Veil supply convoy near Mars. A squadron led by Rachel engaged the enemy, relying on the AI to guide their maneuvers. True to its design, the AI suggested bold, unexpected moves, splitting formations, feigning retreats, and striking from angles the Veil hadn't anticipated. The Veil faltered, their rigid tactics unable to cope with the sudden shifts in strategy. For the first time, humanity achieved a decisive victory, destroying several ships and forcing the convoy to retreat. The success boosted morale across the GDI, proving that Project Phoenix was more than just a theory. It was a weapon that could level the playing field. Back at the base, Alex watched footage of the battle, a mixture of pride and relief washing over him. Humanity had taken a step forward, but he knew the war was far from over. The Veil wouldn't give up easily, and there were still countless challenges ahead. Still, he allowed himself a small smile. For now, they had proven that being primitive didn't mean being powerless. As Mia joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee, she raised hers in a silent toast. To creativity, she said softly, and to proving them wrong. Alex clinked his cup against hers. To survival. The GDI wasted no time putting Alex's theories to the test. If the Veil truly valued order and precision, then chaos and unpredictability could be humanity's greatest weapon. Sam Riley worked closely with her team to design a series of guerrilla-style attacks aimed at disrupting the alien fleet. The plan was simple: hit them where they least expected it, strike fast, and retreat before they could retaliate. The first target was a group of smaller Veil ships stationed near Earth's moon. These vessels acted as scouts, gathering data and relaying information back to the main fleet. Taking them out wouldn't cripple the invaders, but it would send a message that humanity wasn't going to roll over quietly. Rachel Morels led the assault, piloting one of several modified fighter jets equipped with experimental EMP weapons. The devices were designed to disable electronic systems without causing permanent damage, giving the pilots a chance to escape before the Veil could counterattack. It was risky, but Rachel thrived under pressure. As the squadron approached the targets, Rachel's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay sharp, everyone. We only get one shot at this." The fighters split into pairs, each heading for a different ship. Rachel's jet darted through the darkness, weaving between floating debris left behind by earlier skirmishes. Her heart raced as she locked onto her target. With a deep breath, she fired the EMP weapon. A pulse of energy surged forward, striking the Veil ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the vessel's lights flickered and died, its once smooth surface now dark and lifeless. "Yes," Rachel whispered, punching the air in triumph. But there was no time to celebrate. Alarms blared from nearby ships as the Veil scrambled to respond. Rachel pulled her jet into a steep climb, narrowly avoiding a burst of enemy fire. "Let's go," she shouted, signaling her team to fall back. Back at the base, the operation was hailed as a partial success. 3 scout ships had been disabled, though 2 others escaped unscathed. More importantly, the attack proved that the Veil weren't invincible. Their rigid tactics made them vulnerable to surprise assaults, and humanity had just scratched the surface of what might be possible. Despite the victory, Sam knew they couldn't afford to rest. The Veil retaliated swiftly, launching a wave of drones to patrol Earth's orbit more aggressively. It became clear that every move humanity made would be met with increased hostility. Still, Sam refused to back down. She called a meeting with Alex and Mia to discuss their next steps. "We need to keep them guessing," Sam said, pacing the room. "If we can disrupt their routines enough, maybe we can buy ourselves some breathing room." Alex nodded, pointing to a map of the solar system displayed on the wall. "Their supply lines are stretched thin. If we focus our efforts on cutting off resources or damaging key points in their network, it could slow them down significantly." Mia chimed in, holding up a tablet with decoded messages from the captured drone. "I've been analyzing their communication patterns. They rely heavily on specific frequencies to coordinate movements. If we jammed those signals, even temporarily, it could throw them into disarray." Sam smiled faintly, impressed by their ingenuity. "Then that's what we'll do. Let's hit them where it hurts." Over the next few weeks, the GDI launched a series of small-scale operations targeting the Veil's logistical infrastructure. Fighter jets armed with EMPs struck at fuel depots and relay stations scattered throughout space. Each mission was carefully planned to minimize casualties while maximizing impact. Though none of the attacks dealt a fatal blow, they added up, forcing the Veil to divert resources to defend their assets. Rachel became a legend among the pilots, earning a reputation for her daring maneuvers and unmatched skill. She pushed herself harder than ever, driven by the knowledge that every successful strike brought humanity one step closer to survival. Yet, the toll of constant combat weighed heavily on her. Late at night, she often sat alone in the hangar, staring at the stars and wondering how much longer she could keep fighting. Meanwhile, Alex and Mia continued their work in the lab, uncovering new insights about the Veil's technology. Every breakthrough gave the GDI an edge, but the pressure never let up. The aliens' vast superiority meant that even minor victories came at great cost. Still, the team pressed on, fueled by hope and determination. One evening, as Alex reviewed the latest data, he felt a sense of cautious optimism. Humanity was still outmatched, but they were learning, adapting. And in a war against an enemy that thrived on predictability, adaptation might just be the key to turning the tide. The GDI's first major operation was risky, but it had to be done. If humanity wanted any chance of surviving, they needed more information about the aliens, up close and personal. Sam Riley devised a daring plan to capture one of the smaller drones that occasionally broke off from the main fleet. These drones moved quickly and were heavily armed, but they also seemed less cautious than the larger ships. It was a gamble, but it was worth trying. A team of elite pilots was assembled for the mission, including Rachel Morales, a fearless aviator known for her quick reflexes and steady nerves. The operation required precision and timing, qualities Rachel possessed in spades. Before takeoff, she stood beside her jet, running through the plan in her mind. She glanced at Sam, who gave her a firm nod. "Bring it back in one piece," Sam said simply. Rachel smirked. "Don't worry. I'll make sure it's a souvenir worth keeping." The mission launched under the cover of darkness. A squadron of fighter jets raced toward the edge of the alien fleet, their engines roaring as they closed in on their target. The drone hovered silently, scanning the area below. It didn't seem to notice the approaching aircraft until it was too late. Rachel led the charge, weaving her jet through bursts of energy fire from the drone's weapons. Her teammates provided cover, drawing its attention while she maneuvered into position. With a sharp twist of the controls, Rachel fired a specialized net designed to disable the drone without destroying it. The net tangled around the alien craft, causing it to falter midair. Another pilot released a grappling hook, securing the drone and pulling it toward their transport ship. Despite heavy resistance from nearby alien patrols, the team managed to escape with their prize. Back at the facility, excitement buzzed through the air as scientists swarmed around the captured drone. Alex Carter was among them, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. This was the closest anyone had gotten to understanding the aliens' technology. He and his team worked nonstop, carefully dismantling parts of the drone to study its inner workings. Every discovery felt like a small victory against the overwhelming odds. Mia Lopes joined Alex in the lab, focusing on the data stored within the drone's systems. Together, they uncovered fragments of communication logs and navigational records. Slowly, a clearer picture began to emerge. The aliens called themselves the Veil, and they viewed humans not just as primitive, but as expend prominent part in their plans. "They're not here to negotiate," Alex muttered, staring at the decoded messages on a screen. "They see us as resources, to be used up and discarded." Mia frowned, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she cross-referenced the findings. "It gets worse," she said quietly. "From what I can tell, they've done this before. On other planets, they strip everything valuable and leave nothing behind." The realization sent a chill through the room. Humanity wasn't dealing with explorers or diplomats. They were facing conquerors. But amidst the grim news, Alex spotted something else, a pattern in the way the Veil operated. Their actions were precise, almost mechanical, leaving little room for deviation. It reinforced his earlier theory. The Veil relied on predictability, and unpredictability might be their Achilles heel. As the days passed, Alex and Mia grew closer, bonding over long nights spent deciphering alien secrets. They shared meals in the lab, discussing strategies and debating theories. Mia admired Alex's determination, while he appreciated her sharp insights and calm demeanor. Though neither of them voiced it, they both knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. Outside the lab, tensions continued to rise. News of the successful capture boosted morale temporarily, but the threat of retaliation loomed large. Sam monitored reports of increased activity among the Veil fleet, knowing they wouldn't let the loss of a drone go unanswered. Still, she remained resolute. Each piece of intelligence brought them closer to finding a way to strike back effectively. One evening, as Alex reviewed the latest findings, he paused to look out the window. The Veil ships still dominated the sky, casting long shadows over the world below. But for the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout history, and each time they had found a way to adapt and survive. Maybe this time would be no different. "We'll figure it out," he murmured to himself, turning back to his work. "We have to." The days following the arrival of the alien fleet were chaotic. Governments around the world scrambled to respond, holding emergency meetings behind closed doors while the public demanded answers. News outlets buzzed with speculation, and social media was flooded with theories about the aliens' intentions. Some people believed the invaders would leave peacefully if humanity complied with their demands. Others thought resistance was the only option, no matter how hopeless it seemed. In the midst of this turmoil, Samantha Sam Riley found herself at the center of attention. A decorated military strategist known for her sharp mind and fearless leadership, Sam had spent years preparing for conflicts on Earth, but nothing could have prepared her for an enemy from another world. She stood in a dimly lit conference room, surrounded by world leaders who argued loudly over what to do next. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. "We can't fight them," one official said, slamming his fist on the table. "Their technology is far beyond ours. We'd be wiped out in minutes." "And what's your alternative?" Sam shot back, her voice calm but firm. "Roll over and hand them everything they want. They'll take our resources and leave us to starve. Is that really the future you want for humanity?" The room fell silent for a moment as everyone turned to look at her. Sam took a deep breath, leaning forward. "We may not have their weapons or ships, but we have something they don't understand: our unity, our determination. If we work together, we can find a way to stand against them." Her words sparked a debate that lasted late into the night. Eventually, the leaders agreed to form a Global Defense Initiative, GDI, uniting nations under one banner to coordinate humanity's response. Sam was appointed as its commander, tasked with leading the effort to defend Earth. It was a daunting responsibility, but she accepted it without hesitation. Meanwhile, Alex Carter had been recruited to join a scientific task force dedicated to studying the aliens. He arrived at a secure facility filled with researchers from all over the world, each bringing their own expertise to the table. The team worked tirelessly, analyzing data collected from the alien ships and brainstorming ways to counter their advanced technology. One day, while examining footage of the alien fleet, Alex noticed something unusual. The ships moved in perfect synchronization, like pieces of a machine. There was no variation, no room for error. It struck him as odd, almost unnatural. Humans weren't like that. Even in war, there was always room for improvisation, for creativity. Could this rigidity be a weakness? He shared his observation with Mia Lopez, a linguist working on decoding the aliens' language. Mia nodded thoughtfully, her dark hair tied back in a loose bun. "You might be onto something," she said. "If their society values order above all else, they might struggle to adapt when things don't go according to plan." Alex smiled faintly, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe humanity wasn't as helpless as it seemed. If they could exploit the aliens' lack of flexibility, they might have a chance. As the days passed, tensions grew both inside and outside the facility. Protests erupted in cities worldwide, with some people calling for peace and others demanding retaliation. Sam faced mounting pressure from politicians who wanted quick results. She knew any misstep could cost countless lives, but she refused to give up. One evening, after a long day of strategizing, Sam stepped outside to clear her head. She stared up at the alien ships hovering ominously in the sky. For a brief moment, doubt crept into her mind. Were they truly capable of standing against such a powerful foe? Then she remembered the faces of the soldiers volunteering to fight, the scientists working around the clock, and the ordinary citizens refusing to surrender. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was resilient. Sam clenched her fists, resolve hardening within her. No matter how advanced the aliens were, they underestimated one thing: the sheer willpower of the human spirit. And that was something no amount of technology could crush. The stars shimmered brightly in the night sky, but no one was paying attention to their beauty. Instead, millions of people around the world were staring upward, their eyes wide with shock and fear. A fleet of enormous alien ships had appeared without warning, hovering silently above Earth's atmosphere. The ships were unlike anything anyone had ever seen: smooth, metallic surfaces that glinted faintly in the sunlight, stretching across the horizon like floating cities. Alex Carter stood outside an observatory, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the telescope in front of him. He had spent years studying the cosmos, dreaming of the day humanity might encounter intelligent life beyond Earth. But this wasn't what he had imagined. This wasn't peaceful exploration or friendly contact. It felt more like an invasion. Around him, a crowd of curious onlookers gathered, some whispering nervously, others snapping photos with their phones. News helicopters buzzed overhead, their blades chopping through the tense air. Alex tried to focus, peering through the lens at one of the massive ships. It was hard to believe something so large could move so silently. There were no engines visible, no signs of propulsion. Just stillness. Then it happened. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Everyone froze, looking up as a beam of light shot down from one of the ships. It wasn't blinding or destructive. It seemed almost gentle, but when the message came, it wasn't comforting. A voice echoed in every language simultaneously, deep and cold, devoid of emotion. You are primitive. Your species is unworthy of galactic status. Surrender your resources or face annihilation. The words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. Primitive. Unworthy. His mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? Why did they think they could just show up and declare humanity inferior? And what did they mean by resources? Was it water, minerals, or something worse? Nearby, a woman gasped, clutching her chest as tears streamed down her face. Others began shouting, arguing over what to do next. Some urged calm, while others panicked, convinced the end was near. Alex clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. How dare they call us primitive? We've built civilizations, created art, explored the mysteries of the universe. They don't even know us. As the crowd dispersed, Alex lingered, unable to tear his gaze away from the ships. He noticed a young girl sitting on a bench nearby, hugging her knees to her chest. Her wide eyes reflected the glow of the alien vessels above. She looked lost, scared. Alex hesitated for a moment, then walked over and sat beside her. "It's going to be okay," he said softly, though he wasn't sure if he believed it himself. "We'll figure this out." The girl didn't respond, but she leaned closer to him, seeking comfort. Alex sighed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. As a scientist, he knew he had skills that could help humanity understand these invaders. Maybe he couldn't fight them directly, but he could contribute in other ways. Back at his apartment later that night, Alex stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. His mind kept replaying the alien's message. Primitive. The word echoed in his thoughts, taunting him. Were they right? Had humanity been too slow to advance, too divided to prepare for something like this? Or was there something else, something they hadn't considered? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear. Humanity couldn't just roll over and give up. Alex resolved to do everything in his power to prove those aliens wrong. If they thought humans were primitive, they were about to learn just how wrong they were.